Good morning, everyone. So I know that there's been a little bit of confusion, so I want to clarify everything. And will you make sure that folks receive these documents right now? Yeah, if you wouldn't mind passing them out. So I have two documents to back up everything I'm going to say today. I've always been a straight shooter, particularly when it comes to the budget, and I've always voted my conscience, and I really believe that transparency is the best disinfectant, and facts are friendly. So I'm presenting some facts. The first document I want you all to look at is this one. When we ask, what is the deficit and how did we get here? This is the number that lists every expenditure that adds up to $220 million, which is the exact size of the deficit. So you don't have to wonder if it's 48 or 270 or what is it. It's 220, and here are the numbers. And this shows you what the budget recommendation was from the budget director and whether the recommendation was followed or not. And so you can see the folks that didn't follow the recommendations consistently were precincts 2, 3, and 4. It's very evident. And so that's why we are at this massive budget deficit. And then there's a question of, are there going to be cuts or not? And the reality of it is there are going to be cuts. And so this document explains, what is really meant by certain phrases. So when folks say hiring freeze, why is that bad? Why is that a cut? When folks invest one-time funding, how is that a cut? And we'll be sharing, there's a backside to this document, so please make sure you look at the backside of this one, and we'll be sharing more materials. One other document that's currently being printed that is going to go over exactly what all the proposed cuts are, because you're not going to see that in the budget book, you're not going to see that in presentation, it's all presented in a way that's very murky. So the popular thing for me to do right now would be to join my colleagues who are popping champagne and saying they reduce the deficit without cutting services, but I can't do that with a clean conscience. So I'm here to give the community a reality check. What this is pandering during election season at the cost to taxpayers. And let me show you why there's evidence of this. There's 3 points. Number 1, they're using doublespeak. Number 2, they're patching holes with one-time funding. And finally, they're saying one thing and doing another. Doublespeak. As of right now, we're still facing this major deficit. It's a huge deficit. $220 million is not chump change. It's not money you find under couch cushions. And it's not something that you can possibly find without cutting services. All of us are smart people, even those of us that don't know much about finance or budgeting. We know about scams. If somebody comes to you and says, I found $220 million and it was free, I didn't have to sacrifice anything for it, you're going to be suspicious. So don't buy this doublespeak. Instead of calling it removing roles that just happen to be open, they're calling it vacancy control. That's like, it's an invented thing that just kind of sounds nice. Instead of calling it cuts, they're calling it efficiencies. And sometimes they slip a little, like when one of the commissioners said a thoughtful hiring freeze, and then she went back to vacancy control. So it's window dressing, it's putting lipstick on a pig. The second piece that just proves this is political pandering at the cost of taxpayers is that they're using one-time patch funding in their budget solution. So that's smoke and mirrors. The proposal relies on $64 million in one-time funding. So that's revenue that we can only rely on this year, but not next year. And so we may not cut the program this year, but we're going to have to cut it next year. So it's selling a certain property. We're selling it this year, can't sell it again next year. It is a fund that we are draining this year. For example, we are not contributing to our emergency fund this year, but we can't not contribute again next year. So that's one-time funding to pay for multiple things, and it's just not sustainable. So it's just kicking the can down the road so that later we can be in an even harder financial position. And the second piece, this is happening during election season. As election season's ramping up, they may not be telling you this, but the reality is they're cutting programs that are necessary. so that they can increase salaries for a politically powerful group without having to go to the voters and answer for it. And that's just simply having your cake and eating it too. But of course, the ones that suffer are the taxpayers. The proposal I'm seeing that they say balances the budget, which is fewer resources for emergency response, longer wait times for court hearings and case processing, cuts to domestic violence response, reentry programs, mental health diversion, and community-based safety initiatives, longer wait time for mental health care for foster youth, cuts to rental assistance and homelessness prevention services, just to name a few. And again, we're printing out that document as we speak. The budget director is also proposing, and this is obviously the pressure that these commissioners have put on there, a hiring freeze. That accounts for at least $25 million of what they're using to patch up the deficit. So a hiring freeze is a cut, and it's not just a cut, it'll affect quality of life. The hiring freeze would make county operations more inefficient. It's a workforce wipeout. So every year in any organization, there's turnover. Somebody retires, somebody finds a job that they prefer, somebody needs to stay home to take care of the kids. So when that happens, those departments are not gonna be able to fill the position. That's what a hiring freeze will do. And we have a lot of turnover in a lot of these departments. And so our forensic sciences department, they do the autopsies. If they might have fewer medical examiners to conduct autopsies because they're not paid enough. So we have them leave and talk about folks that should be paid more. It might take you longer to get an appointment at your public health clinic because fewer people are working there, or in other departments. In general, it will make everything that we do work a little bit less. And so what I want to just ultimately say here is I would like for my colleagues to come clean. I'm not going to vote for a budget that harms services, and residents deserve to know how they're being impacted. So, you know, the clock is ticking. I think when they say efficiencies, what we should hear is they are spendaholics. When they say they have balanced the budget, they are deficit deniers. That is what you should hear. And what this is a CYA for a very poor decision that they have made in order to place themselves in a better position during election season without having to be transparent with the taxpayers. So I would like to see them just show us exactly what the cuts are, and if they won't, I will show them to you, and I at least want the public to be informed. The last thing here, there's a final vote on the budget at the September 9th meeting of Commissioners Court. That is 9 working days from now. So we have 9 working days to decide, or for them to decide what cuts they're going to make. And that's when the community really needs to be paying attention, because there are going to be cuts, and we can't just let folks get away for political CYA because they're denying that there is a deficit. So yeah, we'll work to try to make sure that this doesn't harm constituents, but frankly, it's impossible, so let's at least be honest about it. So let me repeat in Spanish, and then I will take questions. Bueno, en español sé que ha habido mucha confusión acerca de cuál es el déficit, cuánto es el presupuesto, si hay recortes o no. Entonces quiero clarificar con números y con evidencia. La primera pregunta es, bueno, ¿cuánto es ese déficit? Son 220 millones de dólares. ¿Cómo sé que son 220? Bueno, porque hemos creado este documento y ahí se ven todas las recomendaciones, las propuestas que han venido a la Corte de Comisionados durante el último año y la recomendación del director de presupuesto. Y aquí se ve quién ha seguido la recomendación y quién no ha seguido la recomendación. Entonces, como ven en rojo, los que no han obedecido la recomendación del director profesional de presupuestos son los precintos 2, 3 y 4. Y al no seguir esas recomendaciones han creado un déficit de 220 millones de dólares. Bueno, entonces luego decimos, ¿y cómo vamos a solucionar ese déficit? Porque han dicho que ya está totalmente neutral el déficit, ya hemos podido arreglar el presupuesto, no hay problema y no hay recortes. Bueno, eso no es cierto, porque finalmente es utilizar palabras un poco vagas para tomar atención o evitar atención a los recortes que existen. La realidad es que cuando hablan de congelación de ciertas posiciones, lo que están haciendo es terminando ciertas posiciones. Cuando hablan de ciertos fondos, no son fondos que existen de año tras año, sino solamente este año. Entonces, bueno, voy a explicar un poco aquí. Finalmente, es más como una estafa lo que está sucediendo. Todos somos inteligentes. Imagínese usted que llega una persona y le ofrece 220 millones de dólares. Y usted dice, ¿pero de dónde salieron esos 220? Y esta persona le dice, ¿sabe? No, o sea, han salido de la nada, no tiene que sacrificar nada, aquí están los 220. Bueno, usted naturalmente se va a sentir sospechoso, obviamente no le va a creer a este individuo. Es lo que están diciendo ahora los comisionados. Están diciendo que han logrado encontrar 220 millones de dólares en el presupuesto del condado sin hacer ningún recorte. Entonces, bueno, el sentido común dice que eso no es posible y todos sabemos que lo primero que hay que hacer es seguir nuestro sentido común. Entonces, es finalmente cubrir las apariencias. Y quiero explicar aquí las tres cosas que están haciendo que son evidencia de que esto es simplemente resultado de la temporada de elecciones. Están entrando ahora a la temporada de elecciones, le quieren subir el salario a un grupo muy poderoso políticamente y no quieren tener que enfrentar a los ciudadanos del condado Harris. Tres puntos de evidencia. Número uno, esos palabras que intentan cubrir apariencias. No hay balance presupuestal sin recortes, desafortunadamente. Pero están usando ciertas palabras, por ejemplo, están usando la palabra eficiencias, cuando realmente quieren decir recortes. Lo segundo, están utilizando fondos que son financiación única. Por ejemplo, ventas de propiedades. Si vendemos esas propiedades este año, no se pueden vender nuevamente el próximo año. O ciertos fondos de los cuales podemos recortar este año, pero no podemos recortar nuevamente el siguiente año. Como por decir un ejemplo es el fondo de emergencia. Este año no vamos a contribuir al fondo de emergencia, lo cual a mí no me parece. Pero no podemos nuevamente no contribuir al próximo año, sabiendo que vienen huracanes, etc. Entonces, el utilizar estos fondos únicos para proyectos que existen año tras año simplemente es una estafa y es patear el bote, porque van a tener que eliminar esos programas el año que viene. Finalmente, todo esto está sucediendo durante la temporada electoral. Llegamos aquí porque le querían aumentar los salarios a los policías, lo cual está muy bien y yo apoyo, pero hay que hacerlo de una manera sostenible. Y lo que han hecho es no quererle preguntar a los ciudadanos, a los votantes, si ellos son partidarios de este incremento al salario. Entonces, ¿qué es lo que vamos a ver con estos recortes que están proponiendo? Y no es claro en la presentación que va a hacer el director de presupuesto. Obviamente, él recibe mucha presión de estos políticos, ni tampoco las conversaciones de ellas, pero sí hemos presentado la evidencia en estos documentos. Van a haber menos recursos para la respuesta de emergencia. Van a haber tiempos de espera más largos para audiencias judiciales y procesamiento de casos. Van a haber recortes en la respuesta a la violencia doméstica, programas de reintegración, desvío de salud mental, iniciativas de seguridad basadas en la comunidad. Van a haber tiempos de espera más largos para la atención de salud mental para los jóvenes. Van a haber recortes de programas de asistencia de alquiler y prevención de falta de vivienda. También están proponiendo una congelación de contrataciones, lo cual es realmente una reducción de personal. En cualquier organización se retira gente o consiguen otro trabajo, tienen un niño, se tienen que quedar en casa a cuidar al niño. lo que esto significa, por ejemplo, si un médico en uno de nuestros programas, el médico forense, por ejemplo, que está encargado de las autopsias, es un servicio que provee el condado, se fuera a retirar o conseguir un trabajo que pague más, no podríamos contratar un reemplazo. Y eso es lo mismo en todos los otros departamentos. En general, esta congelación va a hacer que todo lo que hacemos en el condado Harris funcione un poquito menos. Entonces, yo no voy a votar por nada que dañe servicios, no he creado este déficit, pero sí creo que el mejor desinfectante es la luz del día, la transparencia. Entonces, me parece que todos merecen saber si es que los comisionados van a llevar a cabo todos estos recortes. Bueno, merecen ustedes saber cuáles son los recortes. Tenemos 9 días de trabajo laborales de hoy a que se pase el presupuesto. Entonces, en estos 9 días puede usted contactar a su comisionado, decirle cuáles son prioridades suyas y recordar que finalmente van a haber recortes, y si eso es lo que va a suceder, al menos sepamos y informemos lo que está sucediendo. Y bueno, para mí ellos finalmente lo que están haciendo es incapacitando el condado y negando el hecho de que hay un déficit. I'll take some questions now.
Judge, looking at the two versions of the budget proposal, the major difference in the most recent one was there was about $22 million coming out of a general administrative fund. Do you know anything about that? What is that fund for, and what is that money usually paid for?
Yeah, do you remember that one, Julia? $22 million coming from a general administrative fund?
Yeah, it's basically it's basically just the county offsets. Is what it is. It's additional county.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's additional cuts to various countywide programs. So a lot of it, like you'll see the way it's listed, it's like additional department efficiencies, additional countywide efficiencies. And so the question is, okay, from which department and what does that department usually do with that money? So for example, some of that money is, well, normally they use that for trainings. Okay, well, don't we need trainings? So those were the conversations I had with the budget director yesterday. And that's why I'm asking, because the buckets are so vague that even I don't have that document in front of me, but we will produce it later. Yeah.
Commissioner Ramsey had said that a balanced budget will be presented from the budget office today. Do you believe that to be the case? Or?
So, you can, there is a proposal that generates $220 million. However, that $220 million doesn't come out of thin air. It comes from cuts. And so what I want people to see is you can't both create $200 million worth of new projects and not cut $200 million. I mean, that's what shopaholics do. So ultimately, the budget director will present a proposal, and then we will see who votes for it on September 9th. And so the questions we should be asking right now is, let us know in that proposal what Commissioner Ramsey is calling a balanced budget, which if passed would be a balanced budget. What cuts does that entail?
Is there any other additional appetite for like the tax rate? Kind of just talk about how that factors into it, and what residents expect to be paying. Just touch on that. Is there an appetite for increase to offset that deficit? You can talk about that real quick.
Yeah, so unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective on this, and this is why I wanted to go to the taxpayers, we can only collect so much revenue because of a law that the state legislature passed in 2019. And so we will set a tax rate that I don't believe will be any higher than it's been, simply because it can't be under state law. And so that's why the only way out of this was to either not commit to money we don't have, or ask the taxpayers, would you like to see these additional expenses? And so if they said yes, they pay a little bit more in taxes and they see additional expenses. If they say no, then we cut services. But what 3 colleagues have done is create these unilateral cuts to services, and now they are calling it, is it mindful efficiencies, or it's I think a little bit comical the way they're sort of trying to twist the words and putting these cuts under really, really vague headlines. So when we look at the money they spent, this is the level of specificity I have, is more detention officers, creating new district court, increases for the tax office, a raise for law enforcement, so it's clear what it is. I'm not writing on here general departmental expenses, right? I'm not writing here general savings. And so that is what we need to be asking for, because ultimately the people are going to feel those impacts. All right, thank you.